And so that has to also be distinguished too. I was talking in reference regarding something is so mixed, how you may think with body language, with words, with movements, anything that anybody does, that something or someone doesn't care about something or someone. However, the opposite may be true in terms of somebody cares so much and possibly cares the most that because something is so sophisticated, something is so mixed, this equals that something has to be established first before onto something else and something else and something else and something else and something else. When something is not established, then there's this mix, there's a sophisticated thing, and there's a misjudging going on. Where somebody says, this is true, this is false, and they may be wrong. Because there's different types of elements to the story to consider. And you know what I noticed at the moment of time? I noticed me looking at an image and I saw something, and somebody automatically said little. And then I saw somebody that I filled in the blank. So somebody's doing some type of automatic thing. And possibly brainwashing people or getting people accustomed to thinking that something is normal when something is abnormal. I noticed that on me. Somebody's trying to make me accustomed to something that's abnormal versus something or someone that somebody's getting out of a predicament depending on how they're influenced. Depending on somebody else, somebody's okay. I'm noticing somebody's trying to put a limit or a block. Somebody's trying to put some type of a limit or a block on something or someone, and doesn't know how somebody may be influenced or affected. Speaking of influenced and affected, so while I'm trying to explain something, somebody's then diverting the attention to something else in terms of, oh look, the person is has knowledge or has capabilities of this and possibly not utilizing something correctly. And to be honest with you, they may be mistaken. Yes, they may be mistaken, similar to the misjudging. They may be mistaken, similar to something that somebody says, okay, this is the answer, and something may not be at all, maybe something else. And so while I'm speaking, I'm noticing I'm using certain words that I don't want to use. However, this will be a gradual process of me refraining from using certain words where I'm going to have to get out of many forms of different types of conditionings of some type of repetitive idea or thought that I've mentioned to be aware, to practice, to then be able to substitute a word and refrain from something. And don't misunderstand, when I talk about substituting a word, I'm talking about substituting a word that is not to something neither or nor. I'm not mentioning somebody playing a game where somebody's playing a game with words and substituting with word with another word to hide behind a word. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about my substitution. Speaking of that, that reminds me, I'm going to go on my definition page and I'm going to mention that because this is what is true. And I suggest people do something and everything similar. I know people are already, and there's people that may be doing something else. Do this again. So, remember, but based on totality of the situation, something may make sense in terms of somebody using another word or substituting another word and hiding behind a word, where something is just, and I can agree. The problem may be anything that whatever anybody's doing, there's some type of a dysfunction and something is unjust. So if the answer is no, you have to be the answer. You have to apply and practice the answer. If the answer is no and somebody's not somebody's refraining from applying the answer, practicing the answer for the answer to be manifested, then so, obviously that leaves room for somebody to substitute a word and hide behind a word because that person that knows the answer and is going against or adapting to or using some type of opposite must be known, and therefore those that person cannot know the answer because will be a dysfunction. Remember, I'm trying to. There's a safety mechanism where the dysfunction has to not occur, has to be stopped. In time, if the person changes and understands something, depending on the elements, depending on whom, depending on the person, depending on what they may be doing, and so on and so forth, all is relative. For them to have to know or understand the answer and apply the answer versus somebody may disregard and say, hey, you know what, the person knows the answer, however they're going against, let's stop them. May be just in terms of what may be occurring, and depending on what may be occurring, something may be unjust, where something or someone may have to go through various lessons to then be trusted to then know the answer. So depends. And from what my understanding, you know what else I'm noticing while I'm explaining this? There's a person, there's some type of a vision I saw to do with a woman that, some people, I guess, what they do is they sophisticatedly manipulate people to feel a specific feeling and introduce themselves, adapt to somebody's feeling to then make something pleasurable on something or someone. To me, that type of stuff is not pleasurable at all. To me, that type of stuff is similar to abuse. Not that something isn't pleasurable, something may be. However, when I'm understanding what is really going on, I'm not trying to enjoy something that is forceful and that is some type of a abuse. Realistically, even though something may feel good, something may feel like I want to be a part of that, I'm not downgrading myself. In other words, I'm not stooping myself down. I'm understanding what is really going on. So therefore, understanding in terms of what is really going on, I'm able to refrain from doing something, refrain from doing something. That something has to go away. That something has to go away. Oh yeah, and in terms of me doing what I did last night, in terms of however anybody understands that, Nothing to do with anything that didn't make sense or something that's abnormal that I view abnormal. So going back to the topic of discussion, well, before we do, so that abuse, that feeling has to be stopped in terms of no one must feel that particular uh, feeling. And number two, because that's a form of abuse, that abuse has to stop. The person has to get out of the predicaments, get out of that feeling, and that person has to be detached from me. That person is attached on me, and something is a forceful puzzle. It's not normal. I'm on my notes area, and I'm writing some type of definition to do with. Oh yeah, remember this. I've experienced some heavy scientific doings on me. Okay, and I talk about heavy. I'm talking about heavy. I'm talking about very heavy, scientific, where something is picture perfect of the image, picture perfect of the feeling, picture perfect of the movement, picture perfect. Okay, you know what I did? I refrained from partaking in that type of stuff. Even though something or someone may say I partook, I didn't partake. Something was something else. There was more to the story. Something was in black and white. And I refrain from partaking in that type of stuff because that's abnormal. Okay, something is abnormal. Some people are having a very very weird effect on me. To be honest with you, maybe the reason why there's been so many disconnects, even though no, I'm puzzled, having a weird effect on me. All these weird effects add on. Okay? Somebody has a weird effect on one person, another person has a weird effect on one person too. Yeah, something makes sense. Something is similar to a puzzle, however, having a weird effect. Maybe because of the influence and effect of some people. I don't know. Remember, part of my purpose of what I'm doing is for all the dysfunctions, all the disconnects, everything that is false to be known, to be changed. Once something is known, then something has to be changed. Somebody cannot be practicing something that is a dysfunction, something that is less than what the answer is. You know what some people have done? Some people possibly compared me, attached me with something or someone else, did some type of a scientific thing to say, oh, the person, and I've mentioned this before, saying, oh, the person is lying. While the person is not lying, the person is honest. My belief of something is so powerful, is so strong, that regardless of how people attach me, have a weird effect on my feelings, and including do some type of a scientific wave or math, in their minds, they're convinced of something. In my mind, I know what the truth is. And so something is false on me, and somebody else believes something that is false, feeds that power or a force, and that force influences me, affects me wrongly, while they're wrong, similar to an puzzle, and are able to have some type of a other power or some type of a other influence. And having some type of other power, some type of other influence, are able to possibly manipulate something similar to a scientific process to make possibly somebody see a vision, somebody see a thought, somebody feel a specific feeling, and doing so, duping people, convincing people that hey, this is true, has nothing to do with what the truth is. Entertaining and dwelling on that type of stuff and feeding power and believing that type of stuff, the person is then able to be manipulated in that specific element, another specific element, where they lose some type of a power. Now they're limited. Now they're limited, and now there's something occurring where somebody's possibly blocked, where somebody's then controlling something or someone. So if something is unjust, that has to be known, whoever is doing that, and something has to be reverted. So something or someone is not controlling anymore of something or someone. So that's the answer. The reverting. No, the awareness of that, if not known already, the reverting of that, if not known already, and distinguishing something and everything being similar to a puzzle where everything belongs. And I've mentioned this before too, the answer in terms of if I'm talking about something, something is more sophisticated than some people may think. Because I or somebody else breaks something down and continuously makes something easy, somebody thinks something is easy. The point of anything is the fact that the answer has to be known and practiced. There will be no point for the answer to be known. Excuse me. Yes, for the answer to be known and somebody refrains from practicing. Okay. So if anybody knows the answer and is literally not applying and practicing and implementing the answer, there's no point for you to know the answer. Similar to what I mentioned before. So through the midst, while I'm mentioning what I'm mentioning, I'm noticing there's different types of groups that are saying some type of a weird thing, whatever they're saying, and they're similar to an unpuzzle. Somebody wants to sophisticatedly throw some type of a energy or some type of a thing onto somebody else that equals, or trying to get a reaction or opinion from something or someone. You see, there's many elements why this is wrong of me, particularly me. If I was a regular person, I understand, various elements of reality. This is wrong for somebody to see a video of me. So I'm going to close this too, depending on who I sense is observing or watching me, because there's many elements in terms of why this is correct. Generally speaking, this is correct. However, many things are wrong. And generally speaking, you know what some people are doing in the moment of time? They're tampering. They're tampering with me or with people. They're doing some type of a scientific thing while I'm speaking in reference to something. Somebody's possibly trying to divert something or someone. Someone's trying to distract something or someone. Somebody's tampering with a body. Somebody's showing an image. And somebody at the same time is doing some type of a sophisticated thing around the area, mimicking or copying something or someone. And whoever is doing that type of stuff needs to be stopped, needs to be known, and needs to be held responsible because something is having a wrong effect. I've literally made, even though something was a correct effect on me, I've literally made something be a wrong effect on me naturally because I didn't like something. Something wasn't me, something wasn't my true self. I didn't like something. So going back to what I was saying, there's many elements in terms of why Generally speaking, this is true, and generally speaking, this may be false because of specific elements that something is not me. So, also speaking, going back to speaking about the tampering, going back to speaking about the scientific nonsense, there's nonsense sounds going on too. These are all disturbing sounds. Also, these groups, what they're doing is they're trying to condition something or someone. They're trying to make or somebody accustomed to something and have been from a long time ago. Okay, from day one till today, they've been doing the same thing. To me, these are viruses. They're viruses. That's how I think about them. And there's a mix with them. There's a person where they're correct and true. They're correct and true. There's a person that are correct and true, a mix with them. They have to be distinguished from the viruses that are embedded in the mix that are possibly trying to make me accustomed to something, make somebody else accustomed to something, and make something seem that something is normal and doing so scientifically in terms of um, some type of a s- manipulation. So this is a weird conversation I'm having because I was explaining something else unrelated. However, possibly is related. So see how the mix is occurring. You see how the mix can occur. So this also has to be distinguished. Where then in the future, whenever somebody's talking about a specific conversation, something is only in reference to a specific topic that goes away. Then a specific topic that goes away, and so on and so forth. However, this may also be relevant too in terms of the conversation that is occurring. That is me speaking in reference to something, and then me speaking in reference to something else, as something else. That is also relevant too. And that happened a long time ago where somebody's claiming that, oh, the person may is wrong. And you know how some people are doing something? They're literally affecting something or someone to be wrong to then claim something is wrong. This is not normal. So I was going to mention something else in terms of this. There was something else that was very important. However, you know how I feel about this? The way I feel about this is whoever those specific groups are, they have to answer to their doing. They have to answer sooner than later to whatever they're doing. Because I don't tolerate this type of stuff. And I think what they're doing is they're having a wrong effect. They're having a wrong influence and a wrong effect, and even trying to not only give somebody a cut to something. However, they want to get their doing across and possibly doing something forcefully or threatfully. And whoever those groups are, thinking that they're above the law, or thinking that they're powerful, or thinking that they can do whatever they want, they can brainwash something or someone and then make other people cause issues on something or someone. You know what's going on? Some people manipulate with people, and depending on who the person, because yes, everything is different. However, it doesn't matter to me. You know, one thing to somebody else may make sense, and the other thing may not make sense. However, generally speaking, something doesn't make sense. And one group or another is brainwashing, is manipulating something or someone, causing, and then without one or the other word, causing issues on that someone. Okay? And there's a mix going on. So there may be 5 people, and 5 of them have been affected relatively the same, where this person's wrong, this person's wrong, this person's correct and wrong, this person's correct, this person's in between, wrong, correct, in between of that type of stuff. And these groups, without aware of all the elements of what occurred, are causing issues to these people. And they're wrong. And somebody else is possibly thinking about causing issues on them. Or possibly did cause issues on them. That's the domino effect of nonsense that occurred in the past. And that equals that in the past, some people partook in something with one group or 2 groups and then exaggerate something for that infection to happen again. Some type of a domino effect. Some type of a domino effect of nonsense occurred. And yesterday, what I was thinking about? I was thinking about, okay, what makes sense? Let's say, okay, you know, I know this is another topic of discussion. I want to go back to what I was talking about. However, I was thinking in terms to myself, I'm like, okay, what makes sense? What is the answer? The answer is supposed to be the answer in every single element, similar to oxygen, similar to water. That's the answer. So when something is only the answer with 5 elements or 10 elements or 100 elements or 1,000 elements, and somebody makes something sense 1,000,000 elements, similar to a person that is unjust makes something just, similar to an abnormal thing that somebody makes normal. So doesn't make something normal, you know? So somebody may say, oh, well, look, the person is this age. You see, the problem is the phenomena is mixed all over the place. The math is off, the wrong measurement, all over the place. The puzzle's not there, and something hasn't been reverted. Something hasn't been reverted, so something seems normal. That something has to be reverted. So the signification will be for the person to say, this is normal. This is normal. This is what makes this normal. This is abnormal. This is what makes the person or something abnormal. Has to People have to signification will be for the distinguish of something to be that this is normal and this is abnormal. So for specific, generally speaking, this is correct. For specific groups, this is wrong because they may be making wrong choices or wrong decisions, stealing information, copying, receiving something. Disregard the elements because somebody say, "Oh no," shrug something off. No, the same way that some people are heavily conditioned to think that something is correct is how I know that the element I'm mentioning is also very correct, heavily. And that's what they're shrugging off because something doesn't matter to them. They don't think in terms of what is realistically going on, what can occur. They're only thinking in terms of limits. So yes, you know, just because those groups, those people see something in terms of this is relevant and this is irrelevant, the very same irrelevant may be the most relevant. Don't get the story twisted. People try to get the story twisted, try to do twist and turns, and somebody's doing some type of a repeat possibly of something, trying to keep something or someone passive, trying to win something or someone over because they've lost. Not only did they lost like non-stop lost, immensely lost. And with lies, some people are operating. Lies where something may be just, lies where something is unjust, and literally every single thing that is unjust is what I'm referring to, generally speaking, of what the issue may have been, or what the issue may be. Somebody thinks when I stop talking that relax. I'm processing information. There's a lot going on. Somebody may look at somebody and say, "Oh, well, look, this person is a different type of age than me." They may misjudge something or someone say that person rather be with that person than me. Stop being egotistical and naive and hateful. Everything has a puzzle. Everything has to be with a puzzle. You know, everything has to be with a puzzle. Somebody may look at something from all angles. However, not really. They're not seeing something from all angles. They're seeing something from supposedly all angles. Why is it that when I see something from all angles and somebody else does, I have an answer to what the answer is, and somebody's less than the answer, whatever they're doing? They're brainwashed. They think they have the answer. They want something to be normal. Guess what? That's something that is normal is similar to something that is limited, and a dysfunction may be occurring because of that element. Somebody having a wrong form of pleasure. Now, this is normal for me. So, the abnormal stuff and how, people have a traumatic experience violated in the future whom they're supposed to be with and so on and so forth, is a wrong effect. I'm speaking a topic of discussion of something that is abnormal, that some people have accustomed people to think that something is normal in terms of age group. You know, no one's supposed to be with something that hasn't even reached maturity. Some people, they're 18 years old. However, to me, they look like an 8-year old. Some people are literally scientifically manipulating people and doing a variety of things where people are lacking knowledge, they don't have knowledge, and something or someone is literally manipulating something or someone because they're egotistical, because they're naive, because they don't know what the truth is. So they say, to me, that is truth. To you, that's is truth, and so on and so forth. However, that's not what truth is. That's you can't, truth isn't something that you want or you call something truth. Truth is something that is universal, that everybody can agree that this is true, and usually the truth is the answer. So the answer is usually all elements being true, every element making sense. And some people, what they try to do is they try to make every element make sense. Life doing so, lying, and of course that doesn't make sense. And I think what some people are doing is they have some type of a wrongful effect where something or someone reacts and something or someone says, "Oh, the person's wrong." Whoever's tapping with any person and claiming that they're wrong are realistically the definition of what is wrong. May vary. There's many elements, not always, depending on whom, on the intention, depending on the purpose. You know, nothing like a brainwashed person bypassing, passing lies for truth, adapting to various elements, calling themselves correct, making something accustomed to, brainwashing people to put up with something. No, thank you. No, something that is my least favorite thing in terms of that, in terms of various other things. Some people from day one till today have been pushing, and literally, you know what the sensation has been? Poking sensation. A poking sensation has occurred. And the poking sensation has been a wrongful effect from day one till today. Many elements, there's over 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 and 100 and 1,000 elements that are on puzzles, at the least. And multiple elements, excuse me, one element, maybe multiple. On puzzles. So the are the biggest dysfunction, are the biggest issue of what may be occurring. So I think what some people have done is they're putting a limit, they're putting a block or something on this topic of discussion. I don't know what, some type of a weird effect is going on. You know, maybe a bunch of people that misunderstand and believed lies, fed lies, affected people with lies, even wanted people to partake in the lies, to be then infected. So somebody can control, limit, have an upper hand. And if so, that has to be out of everybody's reality because that has nothing to do with the person. Even when people force this type of stuff on me, I still never, that's correct. I never entertain and dwell on this type of stuff. Not because any other reason, however, because something was abnormal. And whoever these groups are, notice these groups, whatever they're doing, they're trying to make me or somebody else accustomed or abnormal to this type of stuff. This is how these people are trying to make me or somebody else accustomed to. They're trying to infect something or someone. They want to put their tentacle on something, infect something, and infect something else, and then infect something else, and distort or change the story. They want to change the color blue into red or some other color. Those groups have to fail. The fact that they're even doing that proves to me that they cannot be trusted. I don't trust those groups. I don't trust them. To me, they're viruses, to be honest with you. And there's a mix going on. So All has to be known. All has to be distinguished. All has to be where everything belongs. Because these people are living without a purpose. They have no understanding of what the truth is. They're living, who cares? We just want to live. We just want to have fun. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Even creating scenarios similar to that, possibly. So I think that's the lie excuse that they're operating on. So some people lie to people, lying to people. Those people then try to attempt to make something or someone believe one thing and another thing and another thing. This call may be monitored or recorded. To try to then make somebody make a wrong choice or a decision to then be able to influence or control something or someone. Or contact us at 1-800. Line or mobile banking. So there's groups, there's people, what they're trying to do, they have a different type of a motive, different type of agenda to attempt and these groups, they want something to persist, they want something to continue. They're living without a purpose. And they've infected many people to also live without a purpose too. And have claimed, oh yeah, that person has done this, you know. So therefore, something is okay for another person to do this. And to be honest with you, even if something is okay, even if something or someone has conditioned me, has manipulated me, has made me feel a specific way, and so on and so forth, and literally feels weird if I don't do something, even though something makes sense, feels wrongful, feels weird. And I want to refrain from doing because something is abnormal. And whoever's forcing, whoever's doing some type of wrongful thing, because in this moment of time, for instance, I'm thinking, I'm visioning something else to do with something that does make sense instead of somebody that thinks something else is occurring. Because there's a mix of that possibly of what may be occurring. These are liar groups, okay? They've delayed possibly. That's what they did. They've delayed something or someone to do a test on repeat to try to then manipulate and mold and win, wrongly win. They've been operating with lies. These are the groups. They're guilty on my behalf because they make something delayed, one wrongly, try to redeem or justify themselves. That's their goal. They possibly made a bunch of wrong choices, wrong decisions on me to try to redeem and justify their wrongdoings. And their wrongdoings is not justified. Why? Because they're they're wrong. How can something that is false be you know what? Everything could have been picture perfect. However, of everything that ever occurred, everything is picture perfect. The exact same process of how something occurred. In terms of me making videos that my face is not seen and so on and so forth, to be honest with you, that's what made sense for me. To somebody else, an ordinary person, maybe not. To me, that's what made sense to me. Okay? So everything is still picture perfect because why? The information is what is relevant, regardless of what anybody says. Sure, something with biolanguage and everything else matters too. However, to an ordinary person, that may be relative. To me, that's not relative because of what occurred on me. Specifically, I made sense specifically back. And so, you know, and regardless of what some people try to tell me, try to convince me to believe, try to um, make somebody else convinced to believe, and so on and so forth. Realistically, very important that people record themselves. I lost, I forgot what I was saying, so I'm going to go back and go continue to what I was saying. There has been. And that's what made sense. Okay? So everything is still perfect. Because why? The information is what is relevant, regardless of what anybody says. Sure, something with biolanguage and everything else matters too. However, to an ordinary person, that may be relevant. To me, that's not relative because of what occurred on me. Specifically, I made sense specifically back. And so, and if there's any form of, regardless of what some people try to tell me, try to convince me to believe, try to um, make somebody else convinced to believe, and so on and so forth. Realistically, yes, who is this? Good. Can you give me a call back later, please? Am I what? Of what? No. Okay. You know, something has to work with one working and the other work cannot work with one working and the other one not working. You know. So I think the more lie excuses people find, very important that people record themselves. Versus legitimate reasons. Some type of a there has been. You try to redeem and justify the wrongdoings, and their wrongdoings is not justified. Why? Because they're wrong. How can something that is false be wrong? That's lies passing for truth. How can that be? I noticed I never spent too much time on one particular thing, even though some people make something may seem that way because they may not understand the totality of what may be going on. However, sometimes something is important to stay on that one particular thing. However, of everything that ever occurred, everything is picture perfect. The exact same process of how something occurred. So yeah, everything is picture perfect for me in terms of the way everything occurred. Even the things that didn't make sense made sense. That's how I feel about that. Because that's what made sense to those specific groups and specific people. So they can understand of what they did. Some people remember, some people may never understand unless you speak their language. However, there may be more to the story. Some people may need to understand something, getting out of various puzzles to then be able to understand something without speaking their language. Before going out the puzzle, something has to go like this back and forth safe doing. Something can be established. Move on and be a puzzle where then you don't have to speak in somebody's language for somebody to understand. When I talk about language, I'm not talking about language in terms of words. I'm talking about their body language. I'm talking about their words. I'm talking about their demeanor. I'm talking about their tone of voice. You know, notice if somebody screams at something or someone. Oh yeah, going back to another topic of discussion, you have to also scream back for somebody to understand one another. Going back to another topic of discussion, I remember the mixes. Going back to mixes of what was occurring via mixes. There was mixes that were occurring, and the mixes that were occurring had to do with, and I'm going to be specific because some people are mixing something on top of a mix, seems though they're trying to get their narrative going. In terms of me having a conversation, being upbeat on a topic, then on to the next one, then on to the next one, then on to the next one, arriving back to fulfill the details. That's the mix I'm talking about, not something else that some people are thinking. Oh, because I'm live, something is going to be unable to upload that. It's not, so I will go. I will go. See, this is a sophisticated thing that people are doing. They want to undermine something still. Somebody doesn't realize how potent, how immensely powerful my information really is. Very, very potent. Very, very powerful. So powerful that somebody has done something ridiculous on me, has undermined me, has sophisticatedly brought me to this point where I'm literally not where I'm supposed to be. Okay? That's how powerful my information is. Very, very powerful. So powerful, somebody doesn't want you to know. Some people don't want people to be on the flow. And they're the problem, those groups. Because people should know. And once knowing the information, for instance, you have to apply what matters, what is true. People may say, oh, well, look, we're going to have to try to hide this because there's some type of. Look, remember, you have to realize that what is wrong is wrong. What is truth is truth. Most people don't realize immediately what may be true, what may be wrong, and go off of somebody else's idea or thought, even though something is correct. However, you have to be able to adapt to what is true. I'm not talking about people going against the answers and adapting to something and opposite and against. No, I'm talking about what is true, that's good, and then you have to adapt accordingly to what may be occurring so something can be more true. Okay? So remember, if somebody's controlling my information, they have to control my information the way I want the information to be controlled. Otherwise, they can't control my information. And if anybody has a problem with that, then they should make something better and not bash or poke, because the bashing and poking is a forceful act, and that's a violation. And somebody can be held responsible for that. When something is done correctly, then something is misunderstood, or not misunderstood. However, something is done correctly, and something or someone goes against, or something may be occurring, then different alternatives and different options can be utilized. However, cannot be a form of manipulation where somebody says, "Oh yeah, I was correct. I did something correct," and gives themselves an excuse to manipulate something or someone to then justify some type of wrongdoing. That has to be distinguished. Sneezing is very important. Anybody that has sneezes, remember, allow the sneeze to go. Sneeze. Sneezing is very relevant for people to sneeze, because I've noticed people holding their sneeze, and that's wrong. No one's supposed to hold their sneeze. No one's supposed to hold their sneeze. The sneeze is supposed to be sneezed, and you're supposed to release something. And some people may say, "Oh well, something is unprofessional," in terms of the video I'm making. I could be editing, I could be doing this, I could be doing that, I could pick and choose various things. No, I like something raw. I like something the way something is, in other words, not a different definition that I don't play games with words. Remember what I said yesterday. In terms of if something I say signifies to something else, has double definitions and significations, or three or four or five, has to be true, has to make sense. If a word I say or something somebody says and something is not truth, then that's what I'm referring to. That I don't. My anything has no. My color blue is my color blue. If the color blue makes sense with a color green and is true and something else in terms of a different element, that may equal to something else makes sense for me. However, if something is false and is lies, doesn't make sense with me at all. So in the midst, who was correct in terms of some type of information that they were retrieving from something or someone? I don't know what some type of a disagreement may be. However, doesn't flatter me very well. All you need is the information to be able to change everything according to truth, and everything will work out correctly. The rest of the other things that people may be talking about may not make sense. Because whatever I'm doing what is true. Being the answer, people have to be the answer and continue to be the answer while everything in terms of dysfunction goes away, for changes to occur, for more changes to occur, for more enabling of changes to be made, so then I can do various other doings. Correct. Some, if you arrive across some type of an egotistical person, and remember, don't confuse the two. There's some people that may confuse ego with something else. Okay, don't confuse. We never understand or be aware of the difference. Okay, take something personal. They're supposed to say, hey, you know what? There's a problem. Okay, this is what we must do. We have to work together to do this, so something can function correctly, where we're all going to be happy. And the thing is something has to make sense. Something has to be true. Where something is fixed, corrected, then in time, something that someone says, oh, okay, well, we have the answer. This is what's functioning. No, there's something better. And continuously gets better until something is similar to something functioning, that literally something is error free. Where something is not what you want something to be, however, something is a puzzle of everything. there may be different forms of reflections that may be occurring in terms of, look, the cup, the liquid, the amount, I may be with depending on various groups and doesn't make sense with various other groups. And remember, no one's supposed to take that personal. They're supposed to understand why something makes sense, why something doesn't make sense. Something is a puzzle versus something is not a puzzle. Something is better with the way something is supposed to be. Something is better off with how something is supposed to be than not better off. So when I'm seeing certain reflections, I'm noticing that the certain reflections may be connected to how something else is, where something makes sense. However, the more truth something is, then something else will adapt to being more true. In other words, so that's what that equals to. Where you know something is supposed to be a puzzle, no matter what. So how to get to that point is the answer. Hey, hey, how are you? Hi, can you hear me? Hey, how are you? Yeah, I saw your. I read your text. I have a question regarding the length. So on the picture, you know how on the fourth picture there's like this interior image where you see the chair. from um, the very back of the chair to the door that is closed on the very back of the bus. Were you able to measure that length, that distance? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Okay. Has this been maintained on time? In terms of the maintenance, the oil service. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So in terms of when the oil was doing everything, you took care of on time. Oh. Okay. Hmm. Oh, okay. So there may be something else then that may be. Uh, there may be something else that the bus may have that you don't know then. Hmm. Okay. You were only aware that something had to do with a fuel pump. You were only aware that something may have to do with a fuel pump. You're not aware of anything else. That's okay. I was saying you're only aware of the fuel pump. You're not aware of various other um, possible issues that the car may have. Hmm. Oh, what? Oh, okay. So this is a diesel. It's a gas. Yeah, I remember you told me that yesterday. Yeah, sure. Okay, can you send me your address, please? Okay, send me your address. What time are you open until? 9 to 6 p.m. Okay, if I'm able to make it out there today, I'll give you a call before I head out. We'll possibly be in the next few hours or so. Um, okay, yeah. Yeah, just try to send me your address. I'm gonna try to see the distance. Okay, thanks. Hmm. Okay. So there's many wrong maths, lie maths that have been operating on my behalf, and these wrong maths, their entire purpose from a long time ago would have been something to do with changing, for instance. Operating with the wrong math without changing is similar to something that is moving forward and having a very, very wrongful effect on everything else. Very, very dangerous of what some people may uh, be doing with their wrong math. So, realistically, what people need to do is they need to refrain from any form of poisons. You cannot make money with poisons. That has to be closed. Not normal. Goes against true reality of what something is. So, all these chemicals, eating of flesh, and so on and so forth goes directly against true reality. You know what some groups are trying to do? They're trying to still create true reality with all these dysfunctions. You think that's going to happen? No, they won't. That simply will not occur. Will be a dysfunction of what some people are trying to forcefully, possibly create. and they try and do so in terms of stealing information, having something for themselves, and similar to when I said that every fish matters. They're like, oh no, we can do everything without a fish. They don't understand the significance. There's various unseen occurrences that occur. Okay, they don't understand that the fish does something that the other fish cannot do. So very, very significant that one fish, that two fish, that three fish, everything. Life has to be preserved, saved. Okay, that's what needs to occur. Generally speaking, there's so many different elements. There's so many different phenomena. There's so many different specifications. There's so many different maths. You know, and all these things may be clashing, and people may be being blamed where they shouldn't be being blamed. So remember that there's a purpose to everything. That there may be a scatter of many numerous thoughts and ideas. So what needs to occur is the scattering of something being there, something being there, something being there has to go back to being where something is supposed to be. Usually, not everything will go back to where everything will be with one particular process. Something has to be with a multiple of processes. And you know what those multiple processes are? Thoughts, the basic principles area, and of course with formula of how something is supposed to be. What's going on in the process too, I think, is there's some type of a sophisticated thing that is occurring, and this sophisticated thing that is occurring is having a weird effect where somebody wants something at the same time doesn't want something, and somebody's going against where somebody's then trying to blame. So refrain from people have to, in other words, understand something correctly, not in terms of blaming. Remember the basic principles area, what that equals to is visions, thoughts, words, doings, feeling, food, what you partake, what you are supporting, what you are needing, what you are wanting, what you're choosing, what you're deciding, what you're believing, what you're buying, what you're selling, what you're entertaining and dwelling on, all has to be a benefit similar to oxygen and water. It has to be a benefit to self beings in the planet. It has to make sense, has to be true, has to be normal. Not something called normal and something is accustomed to, or many people do in the long duration of, where something may be dysfunctional, you know? Anything that may be dysfunctional cannot be labeled normal. So usually all has to do with changes occurring. All has to do with changes occurring, so something or someone can be the answer, you know? Without changes occurring, people expect for things to work is a forceful occurrence of what is going on realistically. So the forceful occurrence is the main problem. The unpuzzle is the main problem. The problem is somebody wants something wrongly, is accustomed to wanting something wrongly, and something or someone also wants something true that makes sense, and that's a dysfunction. Similar to a con and a pro. If a con and a pro had to do with something that was at least safe, where something is a materialistic thing, where I say, okay, you know what, this has a pro, this has a con, you know, the pro is this part, the con is this part. However, this is not being misused. This is being used correctly, where I have this for style. Okay? Maybe one thing. However, then the pro and the con on something else, where I'm drinking this, and this has some type of a con, that may be dangerous. Okay? So that's what needs to be immediately changed. And remember, once truth is, everything has to change according to truth. Because truth is mandatory, truth is required for everything to work correctly. You know, the egotistical, the naive, the lack of understanding, the whatever anything may be, of how some people may perceive or understand something, is abnormal. You know, some people are on a standard, black or white, yin or yang, this or that. And that's not normal. That's not what reality is. So normal is what is functioning generally speaking, in terms of what the puzzles are. Not in one or two or three or five, 10 aspects or elements. However, generally speaking, if something is the answer in with all elements. And if something is the answer and is true and is the answer with all elements, and somebody that is less than the less than the answer cannot claim that the answer is bad. The less than the answer has to change to the entire answer. The entire answer cannot change to less than the answer because that doesn't make sense. However, what does make sense is the less answer changing to what makes sense most. So normal is what is functioning generally speaking. with all elements being the answer, usually, is the answer. Normal is what is good and operates correctly or functions correctly. Normal is neither what you're accustomed to, nor is normal something that majority of people do and you do too. Nor is normal the time duration of how long someone was doing something and someone thinks that that may be normal. So it doesn't matter if you've been doing something for a day, for a week, for a month, for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years, for 100 years. Something has been passed down. Doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with the normal. And whatever has nothing to do with the normal is less than the answer and maybe a force, maybe a vacuum. That's what's going on. That's the phenomena you really want to know. That's the unseen phenomena of what may be occurring. So the corruption of the basic principles area, visions, thoughts, words, doings, feeling, food, uh, buying, selling, needing, wanting, choosing, deciding, the misuse of truth, entertaining, dwelling on, believing. If anything is less than what is true, maybe a force, an unpuzzle. This is the phenomena. You have to understand this very, very deeply. I know that me and many, many groups and many, many, many people are on the same page and we understand very well what this equals to. We understand the dangers of this. So, anything to do with any form of chemical is not supposed to be ingested. That is dysfunctional with the human body. Sugar, flesh. You cannot buy or sell flesh. This is an abnormal behavior. Unless something is technology, unless the being has passed naturally, where somebody has around 15 minutes, depending on the size of the animal, to about an hour to about several hours, depending on the weather conditions, maybe more, maybe less. If something is winter, maybe a week, something may be similar to that instead of an hour, where you have 30 minutes to an hour, generally speaking, to eat the flesh of something or to do whatever you need to do with the flesh of the animal, the carcass of the animal, to then be able to eat. So then you can survive. This is for survival situations only. Survival situations only, where you're literally in a survival situation where you're literally life depends on you surviving. And to be honest with you, you have to be more significant than the animal. The person has to be knowledgeable and just. What they're doing with their life and their purpose of life is has to be just. And they have to consider the elements of what may be more better of on this planet, them or the animal. And therefore, if something is in a survival situation, strives and does everything not to be in a survival situation, there's no food available anywhere, then the person can, at that point, do something in terms of taking something or someone's life because something will be better off without that being. Well, not better off without that being because nothing will be better off without that being. So all the places that hunting is, you can do some type of a hunt. Guess what occurs? There has to be food places stationed around those places. So God forbid anybody runs out of food, you can go a place. In other words, the hunting of the animal has to be literally last resort, like last resort. Similar to many other doings, has to be last resort. So people may not understand the significance of an animal, whatever the animal may be. They may not understand the significance of the animal. They don't know the purpose. They don't know the energy. They don't know what the being is capable of doing. The animal that somebody says, oh, yeah, something is benign, something is not benign in terms of something is, no, I said that incorrectly, excuse me. Something not benign, however, something is irrelevant. Something is not irrelevant. Something is very significant. And people may think in terms of something to do with something is irrelevant, shrug something off, and therefore want to justify some type of a wrongdoing on something or someone. So that may be the issue. So there's not supposed to be any form of last resort. You're supposed to get that out of your mind. That's the answer. You're supposed to get that out of your mind that there's no form of last resort of anything. And planning accordingly to no last resort, people can literally pretend this is the space of the place of where the place may be. And the person here has an issue. The person here has having an issue cannot survive anymore. There has to be here, here, and watch possibly where somebody sees some type of issue where then something or someone is able to guide that person out of the predicament instead of the person having to hunt the animal here, here, or here. No last resort. People have to get that out of their head. There's no last resort. Because that being has a purpose that you may not even be aware of how powerful that purpose is. Similar to a dog or a cat or a chicken or something that sleeps at night that I keep mentioning, and sleeping at night is having a dream, natural dream, that is connected to the universe, that the universe, some type of a issue that may be going on, is stopping. Literally, because of the being literally just dreaming that is connected to the universe outside of themselves. And that portal, that connection may be disrupted, is not working correctly. It's not working correctly. Oh, you know what else I'm noticing? I'm noticing some people saying, oh, well, the person wouldn't be mentioning this, wouldn't be talking about this, wouldn't care about that if the person was this, or that. However, they may be misjudging. They may be misjudging. Certain groups did wrongful choices, wrongful decisions to try to make me believe that I'm wrong and they're just, and that I'm not considering elements. However, what I did and what occurred in terms of this is a misunderstanding of what is true. They don't understand what the truth was. So the establishing of the animal, going back to that, is they're supposed to be stationed at food and services places where something or someone is not then doing some type of last resort thing. Going back to what I was saying regarding how there's some type of a fuss going on while I'm explaining something where some people are saying, oh, well, the person wouldn't care about my body language being shown. If the person was this. I don't. At the same time, those specific groups or people, they know that they cannot be trusted with me. I don't trust them. They've lost my trust. I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking about trust in terms of words, in terms of games. No, no, no. Remember, anything that is making sense, excuse me, neither making sense nor has to do with truth. There's no double anything. That's the virus of what's going on. That has to be reverted back to what is true in terms of if there's any form of double signification, third, fourth, fifth signification, anything that may be, the signification has to be where something is what the signification really is, you know? So that may be mixed, and if so, that has to be known of what may be occurring in terms of anybody's playing with words and on people, whatever they may be doing. So those groups have not have those groups. I don't trust them because they were violators. They were on puzzles. I don't know what type of a false manifestation or corrupted lifestyle they were living here in reality. However, it has nothing to do with me or anybody in terms of what the purpose of those groups were. Those groups cannot have power over what is true. They cannot have influence, they cannot have merit, they cannot have audacity, they cannot have effects. Because they're similar to a suicide math, where then other people may be thinking in terms of suicide, may not be them. The suicide any being, just think in terms of this. If anybody's ever thinking about suicide, it's not you. Somebody else is manipulating you to take the hit instead of the wrongdoers. You have to be strong enough to realize that fact. And somebody else has to remind somebody that if need to be reminded. That if somebody is thinking about doing some type of a suicide, they feel suicidal, it's most likely not you. Somebody is doing a suicide math and some type of a bubble may be bursting where the person may be taking the hit instead of something or someone else. So that has to be everything I say is very, very significant. So valuable, so significant, you have to take immediately. You have to implement and change accordingly. Because this is a type of phenomena that has been occurring on Earth, and being in every single element the most true is what will take everything out of voids, where everything will be preserved. So all those groups, all those people that were labeled wrong or anything, whatever anything may be, just remember, in time changing, getting out of predicaments, getting out of toxicities, attaining knowledge, learning about yourself, unlearning everything, and then going from step, attaining knowledge in the beginning, and then number two and number three and number four in terms of what resonates and connects with the person's true self is the answer. Blaming and all that type of stuff is not recommended because that's not how anything works. The blame is anybody that's persisting in some type of a doing that is without a purpose, that is some type of issue. In terms of if somebody's continuing to do something, what are the elements of why somebody may be continuing something? Is somebody forced, threatened? Is somebody creating that type of stuff on themselves? Is somebody using a lie excuse supposedly? What may be the elements in terms of why something is continuing that is wrong? What is going on? You know, has to be distinguished, and the most important thing is, of course, for something not to continue. Something has to stop. If something is dysfunction, something is false.
Marley,
Marley,
Marley, Marley.
I'm recalling a certain time point. You- From my understanding, there was different groups that were trying to make me or put me in different types of narratives to possibly redeem themselves, their wrong math, or justify their math or something. From my understanding, and I didn't fit in those groups' narrative or their math. So some people, what they did is they try to gain answers from me and then possibly adapt and change things accordingly. However, I believe while that was done, also what else was done was people realized that was true and refrained from doing that type of stuff. Refrain from doing that type of stuff, stop that type of doing, and they themselves started understanding what the truth was and started being answers in terms of what is what realistically. So even in this moment of time, there's different types of groups that are trying to make me personally believe a variety of dysfunctions or wrong maths, and I cannot believe something that I don't believe. I cannot understand something that is not what is true. Even though some people have tried to change, distort, condition, convince, manipulate, even possibly created real like situations or scenarios to try and make me believe that type of stuff. And something possibly occurred regarding a phenomena of what may have been true, where something or someone then possibly took credit for something or someone tried to make me or somebody else believe something. So I was able to understand the difference. I know with me in the picture in terms of what I'm doing is not one thing, is a multitude of variety of many doings for most importantly for people to be the answer. You know, there's no point if I do what I do and people are not the answer. I'm talking about the answer or the understanding. There's a surface level answer, there's a surface level of understanding, and there's immense. There's something that is the answer in terms of what the nature of the reality is, and something the is the answer. People have to change accordingly to nature of reality. They have to change accordingly to the code, to the on dot on point of the code of the nature of reality. That's the answer. That's the type of change I'm talking about. With that being said, you're talking about infinite reality, how infinity will occur. Possible, yeah. Where the person will be born, something will be so functionable in the future, and this can happen in our lifetime, depending on how well everything is understood, or everything is planned, and everything is implemented. So this is a matter of something that is true, something that is possible. The person realistically being the change for the change to be manifested, and for literally a person to be born on this life and go to stage two, and go to stage three, and go to stage four. All these things are true. They're present here in our reality. Just a matter of getting everything correct, where everything is, all the elements, to then be able to the distortion to be this in terms of all elements, where then everything, whatever anybody's doing, is similar to this, and everything is the way everything is supposed to be, where then onto a next stage of development, onto a next stage of development, onto a next stage of development. This is how this is supposed to be. Everything in terms of ideas, thoughts, doings, and everything is true. It's just a mix. Everybody has to distinguish everything, and everything has to go back to where everything really belongs. So, with me mentioning things, distinguishing what is true, what is false, and people practicing what is true, that is the answer. That's why, regardless of every form of disconnect, every form of distortion, what people have to do is simply care for one another, all life forms, and doing so in time, with the answers being understood and being known, everything will then belong and go and be similar to a puzzle where everything belongs. Therefore, in terms of the person choosing, hey, you know what? Should I eat junk food or should I eat healthy food? Eat healthy food, because eating junk food is not good for you. Plus, it's not good for me. Plus, is possibly connected to some type of issue occurring. And some people, they may disagree. They may say, okay, well, the person's bad and the person's wrong, so therefore he has to eat the junk food. There may be a back and forth on that. You know, no, the person has to change, cannot be bad anymore, has to be good and continue to change to only be good and can eat healthy. The person that is going back and forth of playing a game, losing, and has to harm themselves, and if there's some type of a thing that I'm not aware of, something has to be with a specific setting that somebody doesn't understand any other way, whatever it may be. They cannot bother me, and they cannot. Those groups cannot bother me, and they cannot. Those groups cannot. The product has to be not connected to anything where there's some type of issue that may occur. Because that equals there's some type of a. Remember, this dysfunction in terms of how I'm explaining everything and so on and so forth, this will also change and be a function too. You know, something from less of a sense will have to be more of a sense, and this will all be in terms of what the truth of the matter is. And while that is so, you know what else is going on? There's different groups, there's different people. What they're doing with their sounds, with their impressions, with whatever they're doing, is having a weird effect. Their effect is something that is going against what I'm saying. That's how that feels, though. So the plane flying in the moment of time, their effect is similar to something or someone going against something or someone. So people, there's groups and everything. They may be entirely lost and confused. They may not know what is what. So, with that said, something or someone may be adapting to what I'm saying. Well, then they're making themselves seem like, oh, well, that could be that could be that, and that could be that something else too. Regardless of what anything is, if something is not the answer, it has to change. Remember. You can say 10,000 other things too. People have been searching, and they haven't found, and they found with me. So I suggest implement the answer. So I think what people do is they react with some type of a wrong reaction, and then they wonder why another reaction is created. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine entertaining and dwelling in some type of a weird reaction to create another reaction to see, oh, what is what? You're not supposed to know what is what. You're not supposed to be thinking that particular egotistical thought. You're not supposed to be entertaining and dwelling on that type of stuff. People may say, "Oh, well, this person doesn't know this. That's why they." No, I do. That person has that. The other person has that. The other person has that. The other person has that. The whole point is for those people to change from the least truth to most truth, and make sure that the most truth is not manipulating the least truth once the least truth is changing something else. I've given the answers in terms of what the answer is. So this is about implementing what the truth is. You know, not doing so, expecting different results. Who's you know, some people are very, very like illogical. You have to understand the phenomenon. You have to understand. You have to want to change. What some groups are doing is this. They're saying the person has 10 minutes, disregarding 10,000 elements. No, thank you. The truth of the matter is the person has unlimited time. In other words, infinite time. Striving, of course, to finish something not too quickly or too slowly. However, what is correct? You have to understand what is correct. People have to realize this planet is not only for them. This planet is for all beings, generally speaking. How to do everything where everything is coexisting and everything is a puzzle. Otherwise, people are living a false reality. I do believe this is a lack of knowledge issue. The person with knowledge and knowing true self, literally being emptied to be full and starting from filling the water with knowledge and then everything else sticking correctly is the answer. Mhm. You know what I find ironic? I think to myself, I'm like, why did this happen to me? It makes no sense for me, you know? This is not me in terms of any form of nonsense. However, I look at the totality of what occurred and things begins to make sense. Even though if that didn't happen, would not make sense in other words. So remember, something cannot make sense and make sense. The fact that that's going on is because of the phenomena that may be occurring. What I'm believing, what somebody else is believing, are two separate stories. All right, up. Good morning. So many people are in different types of timelines, different types of realities, different types of beliefs, different types of understandings and misunderstandings. And people do have to understand that, hey, you know what? There's all these elements to life. And regardless of all these elements to life, what are we going to do to make everything, generally speaking, work for everybody? And the more I understand something, the more I understand that this is not up to one person or two people to do everything. This is up to literally every single person doing their part in terms of being the atlas to make the bearing of somebody's weight on somebody's shoulders be less than. So something won't be overbearing or heavy. Because that's what I've been experiencing from a long time ago to today. You know, I've been experiencing overbearing and tremendous, huge amount of different types of feelings, feelings, processes, thoughts, ideas, things that have nothing to do with me or something or someone else. And that may be the issue. And remember, a lot of issues, people may never understand where some type of issue may be stemming from. You may never really understand. Somebody keeps trying to tell me, like, oh, yeah, we understand you have the answers. However, wait, because the answers will only make sense with this, or that. Not saying that the answers is literally for supposed to be the most correct for everything, everyone. Everything and everyone is the answer. If there's one person and there's 10 people, the one person can control the 10 people, be the control being good. There's 1,000 people, then 10 people can control 1,000 being good. The numbers are only numbers. The point is for something and someone to understand to be the answer so they can literally be what the truth is. So, I'm doing my portion given the abilities of what I need to do for a long time. And I think if everybody does their portion similar to Atlas in terms of taking something out of the person's shoulders is the answer. You know, what I noticed? I noticed in the midst while I'm doing something, wherever anything may be, There's various lack of understanding tests and egotistical things occurring. Whereas people are like, well, we want to understand, we want to know the effect, we want to see the difference. And you know what they're doing? They're already having a wrong effect. Okay? This is similar to me saying, hey, don't entertain and dwell on this type of stuff because this is maybe a dysfunction. These people doing this type of stuff, whoever may be doing that type of stuff, is a dysfunction. Okay? There's a dysfunction occurring. And so the dysfunction must be stopped in these people doing this type of stuff because they're having a wrong effect. They're causing issues on themselves. They're trying to blame me or somebody or something else, perhaps. That may be occurring. A lot of people are causing issues on themselves and they're trying to blame something or someone else. Similar to the person possibly trying to say, oh, well, look, the answer may not be that. The answer may be that, you know? They want me to be correct and them still be wrong. No, this is not about me being correct and the other person being wrong. This is about me being correct and the other person being correct also. So the lift of shoulders can be the way something is supposed to be. So the disregarding, the ignoring of what is true is the answer, is the virus of what is going on. Nonsense curiosity, entertaining and dwelling in nonsense, lie reactions, lie opinions. Some people are slowly and surely trying to, similar to me sensing something, I don't know what that is, something to do with glimpses and visions and thoughts may make themselves seem like I know something and I don't. Maybe the problem of what these people, these groups are doing. They're I'm sensing some type of egotistical thing again, some type of a hate again, some type of confusion, some type of a lost situation where they're literally choosing to be this way, I believe. Whether they're choosing to be this way or something is people have not realized what something may be. Maybe the what's really what the issue is, what really is realistically going on. So while I believe that everything realistically is true in terms of what is going on in the midst, there's people that are continuously doing some type of a opposite effect to try to say, oh, like the person doesn't know what he's talking about, the person is wrong, and so on and so forth. Literally, and losing, literally, and whatever they're doing, they're playing a game on themselves while I'm upholding what is true. If these groups or these people are trying to go against what is true, they're viruses. They are viruses. Whoever they pertains to cannot go against what is true. And some people even create some type of weird situation with a phenomena or something sophisticatedly to then say, oh, yeah, all these things are viruses and they're going against. Literally creating problems in themselves, possibly. Not even realizing that they're creating problems in themselves. And possibly realizing that they're creating problems themselves. And doing so, live that's possible, is doing so anyway, So some people may say, oh, well, what I'm doing in the moment of time is wrong. Who are these judges? If they're claiming that I'm wrong, are they true? Because they're not making sense with me. That's maybe why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, if somebody's judging something or someone, do they have the ability to judge them being true or being hypocrites? Because they cannot judge me at that point of time. When you want to distinguish everything, that's where that answer belongs, you know? The judging can occur if something is judging something or someone and is more correct. However, now not more correct, however, is realistically true. Where something is making sense. Not when something or someone is judging someone and is a hypocrite and is not making sense. So can you imagine those type of viruses in reality? Those viruses have to change. Otherwise, if they're not changing, they're causing issues on me or something or someone else. That's their problem. That's their karma. That's their fault. So cannot blame me or anybody else except themselves. It seems like they bought out a very heavy on repeat, obvious on repeat, a heavy buyout to try to make me believe of some type of a thing. Except something is lies, something is glimpses, something has nothing to do with reality. Somebody's trying to make me believe or convince me of some type of a thing. I don't know what that type of a thing is. Somebody's trying to make somebody else believe some type of weird thing. I think they're trying to make me believe something that is not true. And they're trying to make me believe something that is not true so they can either redeem themselves, create some type of a wrong behavior, or attempt to possibly try to go against. I think they're operating in a very, very low vibrational frequency, if you ask me. They don't know the immense power beyond the planet. They're not of that power. They're of some type of a lesser power. They can only be that power with really being true. Not being true, expecting different results is not the same thing. So I think what these groups are doing is they want me to believe some type of a lie to make me stop doing what I do, perhaps. You know what this is? Similar and different. This is similar and different of a person being true and somebody wanting me to similarly go back to eating meat or something to give me an illusion that everything is well so they can attain powers over me and then be able to control me. I think that's what that is. Similar to what I was mentioning last night and before them too. How the person being true, somebody has sticked somebody, like similar to a glue, so they can do playouts and visions and thoughts. And just because they can doesn't equal they do, because they have different types of consequences, from my understanding. And those groups cannot attempt to cause me or somebody else issues. And even if they stick people, if something was unjust, has to be unsticked. Because some people stick people where if somebody is true, they could do some type of a vision, some type of a thought, some type of a play out to disrupt somebody. So so somebody will return back to their weird behavior or doing or something. Doing so, the person will get an illusion. Those people will gain some more powers and be able to have a control upper hand on people. And yet again, be able to influence them, affect them wrongly, and for those people to go back to some type of a weird thing again, to yet again they maintain power and control people. I don't side with that type of stuff. That's not normal. No one should. Those groups should not have that type of a power to try to make me drag down or stoop down so they can either limit me or control me. So the person has to be truth and continue to be true. Instead of the person has stuck somebody, for a person to go back to some type of a eating of a meat or some type of junk food or something to get the illusion, while there's huge dysfunctions occurring while people are doing that. So can you imagine the level of dysfunction that is occurring? I understood that image very well. Some type of image with a bunch of people trying to survive off of, similar to Jesus or something, is not going to happen. Is fake, is less than what is true, you know? Is a minute, tiny nonsense that people have brainwashed people to say, oh, everything will be good if only somebody suffers. It takes the pain away of everybody. You know how de-evolutionary that is? You know how many thousands and millions of people gave their lives for people to have freedom? And this is the level of nonsense that people are doing? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how dysfunctional reality is? Can you imagine all the people that literally gave their lives for people to simply continue on with being. Can you imagine how wrong people have been? You know how wrong people have been for people to continue even for a second with their nonsense acts or doings? It's like a slap on everybody's face, man, including my face too, every day. That's what I sense. A lot of slapping, of people slapping my face with literally me doing so much of what I'm doing every day. And those groups are literally tossing something under the water. Okay, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how many people that are true feels. That's exactly how what those people are possibly prescribing on people, and that's not normal. So no, there shouldn't be any form of person suffering. Once the truth is known, all you do is apply the answers. In doing so, I was so heavily affected here, so heavily. And what I was trying to do is I was so true. I was so correct. I was trying I was trying to. Everything was new to me, so I was trying to wait for those waves to arrive so I can make sense of everything, and that wasn't occurring. So I was frustrated over here because I knew what the truth was, and I knew what people were doing going against something. So remember, once the answer is no, you're supposed to apply the answer. Once applying the answer, then everything in terms of the truth has to be manifested. There cannot be no form of suffering. That's a bunch of lies. How many Jesuses were there? So that equals whenever there was some type of issue, no one can solve anything, people would blame something or someone to take their pain away for them. And that was another last ditch attempt of some type of a 1 year or 2 year or 5 year survival until something else happened to survive. Look how dysfunctional everything is. Can you imagine? That's why there was many Jesuses. The Jesus were used like tools if somebody doesn't know. When I connect the dots. A lot of groups, what they want to do is they want other people to take the hit for them, especially when the answers are available and something can be done correctly. What would be the point of me being Jesus or taking the hit for somebody? Especially dirty game players. Heck no. Not even for a second. You know? If there's all this thing occurring and there's no resolution and da 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 da, da that will never happen. Especially with me in the picture. All these things, da, 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 I would take the hit for everything true. I wouldn't do anything for any form of anything that's not true, nothing to do with the truth. However, that's not going to happen. No one's going to take a hit. Why? Because everything has been solved. Just a matter of changing, matter of implementing, matter of putting everything together. So if people want to neglect that and not do what is the correct thing to do, those harm causers that want to go against me and what is true, that's their problem, that's their karma, that's their fault, or whatever they're doing. Has nothing to do with me. They can be Jesus all day. I'm not duped, in other words, I'm not fooled. Go fool somebody else. Oh no, wait, remember? There's not supposed to be anybody you're supposed to be fooling. Lack of understanding people, man. Taking their personal issues, their frustrations, their confusions, their lost mindsets on something or someone else. Hey, you know what? You have a problem, that's one thing. This is the solution. Do this so the problem can go away. Oh no, we want to continue in our way. Okay, fine. There's any form of consequence. That's your problem. What part of that don't you understand? The issue is supposed to be stopped and prevented, and the person that is causing some type of issue, they're supposed to be held responsible for what they're doing. There's going to be consequences. You know? That's what's been going on. There's an answer for people to change. They say, oh no, we don't want to change. We want to do this, do this, do this instead. Okay, then whoever those groups are, they're going to be held responsible without any issues occurring on any being. That's their answer. Is that the game that they want to play? They're going to be held responsible. There's going to be a karmic